Get into my cabin. It's freezing outside." The lonely cowboy said, his voice rough like the wind, tearing across the Montana plains. What Anna didn't know was that those 8 words were about to shatter the walls she had spent years building around her heart. The snowstorm had swallowed the highway, her luxury SUV stuck uselessly against a ridge of ice, her phone dead, her designer coat no match for the ruthless cold. Anna wasn't just any stranded woman, she was a self-made CEO, a single mother who had clawed her way through betrayal, humiliation, and a divorce that left more scars on her soul than on paper. Trust was a currency she no longer invested in. Love was a luxury she had buried the day her ex-husband chose ambition in another woman over his family. Yet there she stood, shivering beneath a sky heavy with snow, when Scott appeared like something out of a forgotten country song. Worn denim jacket, Stetson hat dusted white, as the color of quiet storms. He wasn't polished or charming in the way boardroom men were. He was steady, solid. "Well, I won't hurt you," he added softly, stepping back to give her space, against every instinct screaming at her to stay guarded. Anna followed him to the small wooden cabin, tucked beneath the frowning trees. Inside, the fire crackled with warmth that felt almost suspiciously intimate. Scott handed her a blanket, brewed coffee on an old iron stove, and never once looked at her with expectation and concern. That unsettled her more than arrogance ever could. As the wind howled outside, fragments of conversation unfolded. He spoke of lost cattle, long winters, and the silence that follows heartbreak. She spoke carefully, revealing only peace, her daughter waiting at home, the empire she built from nothing, the loneliness that success never fixes. Hours passed, and something shifted between them, something fragile but undeniable. Scott listened in a way no one had in years, not to impress, not to compete, just to understand. And when Anna finally admitted she hadn't let anyone close since her divorce, Scott's jaw tightened with judgment, but recognition. "I know what it's like," he said quietly. His fiancée had left him 3 years ago for a wealthier ranch owner, deciding stability mattered more than loyalty. Since then, Scott had chosen solitude over the risk of breaking again. 2 wounded souls, sitting inches apart, pretending the spark wasn't there. When the storm is by morning, Scott fixed her car himself, refusing payment. Anna insisted, offering a check that could have replaced his entire ranch roof. He shook his head. "Kindness isn't for sale." Those words lingered long after she drove away. Back in the glass towers of her city life, Anna found herself distracted, remembering the warmth of a fire-lit cabin instead of the cold shine of her office windows. Days turned into weeks, yet Scott's steady voice echoed in her mind. So she did something reckless. She returned, but what she found crushed her. Scott wasn't alone this time. A woman stood beside him near the barn, laughing, her hand brushing his arm with familiarity. Anna's chest tightened painfully. Of course, men like Scott didn't stay lonely forever. She had waited too long, pride swallowing her heartbreak. She left without letting him see her. That night, Scott discovered the tire tracks near his gate and knew. He drove into town, searching, only to learn Anna had been there and left. Panic surged through him in a way no winter storm ever had. Meanwhile, Anna Saturday in her penthouse apartment, staring at the city lights, convincing herself she had imagined their connection. She told herself CEOs don't fall for cowboys. Single mothers don't gamble their daughters' stability on feelings born in snowstorms. But the truth hurt more. She was afraid that loving Scott meant risking another abandonment. What she didn't know was that the woman at the ranch was Scott's sister, newly divorced and temporarily staying with him. By the time he reached the city days, ladder dusty boots stepping awkwardly into marble lobbies, Anna had already built walls twice as high. When Scott appeared in her office doorway, hat in hand, heart on the line, the entire room seemed to still. "You didn't even let me explain," he said, pain visible in every breath. Anna tried to stay composed, but emotion cracked her voice. "I don't survive heartbreak twice." Scott crossed the distance slowly, not demanding, just honest. "Then don't survive it. Choose something better. Choose me." And for the first time in years, Anna realized strength wasn't about standing alone. It was about daring to lean on someone who wouldn't let you fall. Weeks passed after that confrontation, not in silence but in vulnerability neither of them had practiced before. Scott stayed in the city longer than he ever had, uncomfortable in suits but determined, learning about Anna's world instead of mocking it. Anna visited the ranch again, this time meeting his sister properly, shame burning in her cheeks for assuming the worst. They didn't rush into promises. They unraveled slowly, like winter thawing into spring. Anna introduced Scott to her daughter, expecting resistance, but instead watched as he knelt to the child's level and spoke gently about horses and white skies. Something inside her healed in the moment of fracture. She hadn't known was still bleeding. Yet the real twist came when Anna made a decision that stunned her entire board of directors. She stepped down as active CEO, appointing a successor she had mentored for years. Success had given her power. The love offered her a position. She chose presence. Sta, equally changed, expanded his ranch into a community program, teaching underprivileged kids responsibility through farm life. Funded quietly by Anna but never controlled by her. They met in the middle, not Cowboy saving CEO, not CEO rescuing Cowboy to equals, who had faced loneliness and refused to let it win. On the day Scott built a new cabin, overlooking the same snowy plains where they first met, he carved 8 words into the wooden beam above the fireplace. Get into my cabin. It's freezing outside. Only this time, the storm wasn't outside. It was the fear they had conquered together. Anna smiled through tears as she read it, realizing that the cold she had lived with for years had finally melted. Heartbreak had introduced them. Misunderstanding had tested them. But courage rewrote their ending. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in gold and amber, Anna understood something she would later tell her daughter. Sometimes love doesn't arrive in boardrooms or perfect tin. It rides in quietly through a snowstorm, wearing dusty boots, asking you to step inside and trust the warmth.